really get a useless time slot here. Now I'm going to let Yusuf introduce himself. Most of you probably already know him, but we'll let him introduce himself.
Okay, sure. Sure.
You want to use that or that?
Okay, great. Thanks. So for those of you that haven't forgotten me or maybe don't know me, I'm Yusuf. I used to work for the Georgia Hospital Association. I managed, past tense, I have to remember that, GHA911, including WebEOC and Everbridge and all those great tools. So I've done that, I guess, for about 8 years. And so now I actually just recently moved over to City of Atlanta doing their Everbridge system. So today we're going to talk about WebEOC and how you get up and running on that. I noticed earlier when Brett mentioned or asked how many of you guys have GHA911 accounts, there were quite a few hands, or don't have them rather, there were quite a few hands that went up. So I'm actually going to start at the very beginning, which is how do you get a WebEOC account? Anybody know how you get a WebEOC account? Yes, at the back. No, I was saying, how do you get a WebEOC account? Right here. Excellent. So you're going to go right here, GHA911.org, and there's a Register Now button on the right. And you are going to go click Register and then put in your organization. And when you start, you're going to get a pull-down menu. And it looks like some folks have put in regional areas, but am I correct in saying, Brett, that you want them to register under the general? Okay, perfect. Yeah, you'll see some regional areas groups on there, but you want to register for the one at the top that just says Amateur Radio Emergency Service. And just click Continue. And you'll put in your username and password, that information that you want to select. And from there, once you finish entering that information, you'll then be able to log in immediately, right? No. What happens then is somebody actually has to approve your account. And the reason for that is that there wouldn't really be much use in having the username and password up if we basically let you put anything in and then give you access. So we actually vet all of the folks that register for access to the site to make sure that they are who they say they are and that they do actually need access or warranted access. So I'm going to put the mic down here for a second and put in my account information. Okay, so by registering for GHA911, that gives you access to WebEOC. So you're in the system now, great. What you're going to do, and I guess to go back half a step, what I'm going to do is just do kind of a walkthrough of a general incident that you guys might encounter. And so hopefully some of you will actually log in, those of you that already have accounts. Though if you have your laptop and you don't have an account, feel free to go ahead and register now, and I'll make sure that you get approved before I leave today. But you're going to go to this WebEOC incident discussion box, and you can't see the entire thing because you need to scroll over a little bit on this one, and you see a pull down here. So when you click on that pull down, you get a whole bunch of incidents. You guys may not see quite as many because I have admin access, but you're going to look for an incident or for the incident that you want to log into. So in this case, it's this one. Anyone notice anything about the way this incident's named? Because we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. This actually tells you exactly what this is, right? And that's really important with WebEOC because everything that you can see or do in WebEOC is determined or governed by the incident that you're logged into. So I'm going to go ahead and select this incident and click Login.
We can't read it, so what incident is that?
The 2018 Aries training. And so once you do that, the system will log you in. to WebEOC, that is.
Click on WebEOC login.
Correct. And actually, let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger for y'all. We only have so much space on here, so the more I make it larger for you to be able to actually read it, the less it gets crowded in. So those of you that are familiar with WebEOC, how many of you know what this is called? This particular screen? Exactly, it's the WebEOC control panel. So you get to all of the boards that you can see within an incident from this control panel. So what happens if I get into the wrong incident, or there's another case where you might actually need to switch incidents. If I'm in a regional incident and I need to switch over to an incident for the facility that you're working at, you can just click on the title of the incident here. You'll get a pop-up, and you can use that to select the other incident that you want to log into. So I'm not going to do that right now so that we can go right into the event log for the Aries training incident since we're a little behind schedule. Okay, so now I'm in. What am I going to see and what am I supposed to do here, right? No. Let's see if it's still underneath. There we go. So okay, so I'm in now, but I don't actually see anything. That's because this is a new incident. It looks pretty much exactly as it would if you had created it yourself, and boom, there it is new. So what we ask you to do when you first create an incident is to add a comment, and you do that by clicking Add New Comment, as you might expect. And so you'll get this new comment window. For your initial comment, what you're going to want to say basically is a description of what the incident is and what's happening, any other relevant information that you might want to add. So and I'm just going to click Save. Yeah, I think the connection here slows down when we get a bunch of people on. And there's our comment. So what would typically happen is if anybody else is logged in, please do feel free to answer this. So what will happen from this point is other people will chime in. So let's say we have a severe weather incident, and I've posted that I've stood up my hospital command center, and here's where I'm actually going to rely on you guys because I really do not know exactly what you all do specifically. But what would you guys be doing at this point? In other words, the hospital command center has been stood up. Somebody's requested you guys to come in, and so now you're in the command center. Yes.
Get your radios up and working.
Okay, excellent. So that's something that you would post in here, that you've arrived at Hospital X and you're set up and ready to go. So that would actually be something that we would find valuable to know, because what we don't want in here is a lot of chatter and that kind of thing. So I can see that actually a few people have responded, which is great. And let me widen this out a little bit. And so as each person responds, the newest comment will stack up at the top. If I come into this late maybe, and I want to, I don't really have time to sit around and read stuff at my computer, I can actually click print, and I'll get a printout of this from a standard print dialog, which isn't showing a preview, but it does work. And so I can print all of this out, and I can review it at my leisure, if I'm running around elsewhere trying to do other stuff, because that never happens, right? That you have to do more than one thing at a time. So great, we actually have quite a few people logged in. Wonderful. So from this point,
Is the organization the one you registered for initially? That way?
say that again?
That's the one that you registered?
Correct, exactly, yes. So what you would see here, in you guys' case it says Aries, but if it were someone at Hospital X, it would say, it would give their facility name. So whatever agency they've registered under is what's going to show up there. So once I get a few posts here, it can actually be really fun to try and read through these at some point and try and figure out stuff, if you're looking for information. So what you can do in that case is put in a search term, just like the Google, and it'll filter out for only comments that have, in this case, GHA. I actually put in GHA, and it brings up this GHA911 comment where they mention the GHA911 class. If you're going to use the search bar, and the reason I only put in GHA instead of the whole thing, the less characters you can put in, the better. Reason being, people get typos, or maybe it's just not formatted in the right way, and maybe there's a space in there or something. So you increase your chances of filtering out for the information that you want by putting less in the search bar rather than more. So I'm going to reset that, and that'll get us back to our message board for folks that have been responding.
Search them, so if you had like that, other entry came in with that same criteria, would show up for you?
Yes. Yes. Oh, I see what you're saying. No, it would not do that. So you would actually have to search again. Yes. So going back to the new comments section, just to point out something really quick. You guys may have noticed that there's checkboxes here for GHA and DPH. What the heck are those? What those actually are is it allows us to share information with GHA and DPH, as probably you might imagine. So what would happen here, in a couple of cases that I'll mention in a second, is if I made a comment here and checked those checkboxes off, it would show up on the statewide SIG events board at GHA and at DPH, depending on which one or both of these I check off. So what are the circumstances under which that happens? Because it doesn't happen all the time. There have to be a couple of things that are in place. One, there has to be a corresponding incident at GHA or DPH, whichever, that corresponds to this incident. It also has to be connected to that incident, and then you also have to have permissions to do it. So unfortunately, there was no way for us to hide that for the folks that don't have permissions. But unless something's wrong, if you check those and you don't have permissions, it's not going to go through. So just an FYI. And the same thing with that. Even if you do have permissions, you don't want to sort of send them a lot of chatter. So here monitoring is not the kind of thing that they're going to be interested in. But if you have a report that you want to share, that's the kind of thing that you would actually want to share with them if you have permissions to do that. So our time is rapidly running. So any questions so far? Yes.
One of those after the class is over, I guess.
Well, sure, go ahead.
I put my username and password up so carefully I can't find it. So.
Oh. Well, don't feel bad about that. I got to the point where I finally gave up, and I mentioned while we were getting set up that I actually use a password filler. So I actually have to go in and look up my passwords because all of them are different. A lot of folks, write stuff down, which is not really recommended, but everybody has their own method. So password filler, paper and pen, whatever. But
Are you able to help me find mine after the class?
I can, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we are radio imagers. So everybody's becoming very dependent on technology. When the internet goes down, are we going to try to use AmperNet to connect to this, or how are we going to make any of this work?
Recall the part where I said I have no idea what you guys do? So I don't know what AmperNet is. I'm the person that Brett mentioned earlier when he said, oh my God, the internet's out, what do I do? Because really this tool, if you can't get to the internet, you're talking to yourself, right? So that's why you guys are so important. Really there are a lot of hospital folks where, they've taken the ARIES courses and they're certified and all that. I did not. So that's why I was saying I'm not familiar with what you guys actually physically do. Yes?
So most of us probably won't have the rights to publish to the other?
Correct. Okay, so our incident is done. The severe weather has resolved miraculously. I'm going to close this down and hope that what I have underneath is it. Good. Okay. So now what I'm going to need to do is close this incident out. Why do I want to do that? Any guesses? Say again?
To qualify for federal.
You know what? In the current climate, that's actually a good answer. Not the one I was looking for, though. The reason is, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, when you have a whole bunch of incidents like that, it makes it difficult for people to find the one that they're looking for. Exactly. And that's the other reason that what you don't want is for somebody to accidentally get into your incident and be in a hurry or something and post something in your event log that has nothing to do with your incident. That's bad for a couple of different reasons. One, you have some information that you're like, what's going on? And two, they've tried to transmit some information to someone and they think they did, but they did not. So you want to close these out when you're done. To do that, you're going to click the Access WebEOC Management link. That will take you to part of the WebEOC Incident Management page. This is also where you would create a new WebEOC incident, which we'll go through in a second. I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom. And the archive area is where you're going to go ahead and archive this incident. So same deal, pull down, find the incident I'm looking for, and click Archive. So the system says, hold up, do you really want to do this? Because Yusuf or nobody else really can undo it once it's done. And I'm going to say, okay, I do want to do that. And now
they wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't as just an operator in a hospital.
It depends. If generally speaking, what I say is the person that started the incident should close it out. So that probably might not be your folks, because in most cases maybe you'll be responding to a regional incident. But if you have, if you're doing a training or if you're doing something internal that one of you guys individually starts up, then yeah, you would want to know how to archive it. Once it's archived, where do I go to find it? There's an incidents report button over here on the right, so I'm just going to click that. And that takes me down to the list of all of the incidents that have been archived. And here's the one we archived right at the top. So whenever I go in this, I'm not going to have my incident right at the top conveniently just waiting for me like that. So if I need to search for it, I have a number of search bars up here to do that. I won't go through all of them, but you can search by the incident name, by who created it, and so on. And the basic premise works the same way, that you want to put in part of the name of the incident and click search, or a part of the name of the person or whatever. And so that'll bring up everything. What I was looking for was test in the name of the incident, but you could get some other stuff. The other way you can search is by date range. And again, on a full-size web page, there's two boxes there, one from the start date and end date, and you would just put those in and it'll give you everything between those dates. So if you know that it was an incident that happened sometime in August, you can put in August 1st through the 31st, and there it'll be. Scrolling over a little further to the right is where I would actually get the incident reports to download. So you have a couple of options. I can do PDF. Or Excel. So just out of curiosity, anybody have any idea why you would want to maybe use one versus the other, a PDF file versus an Excel spreadsheet? Exactly. PDFs are kind of a pain in the butt to edit unless you have the full Adobe Acrobat software or some other PDF editor, and it seems not to be coming up. I'm sure it's downloaded already, but ultimately that's where you'll get your reports, and you guys can go through those. In the PDF version in particular, it looks pretty much the same way that we saw it on screen. The only difference is that what you get in there, there's some additional information that you fill in when you start the incident, which we'll see in a second, and that shows up in the PDF form, and you don't see that when you're actually logged into the incident. Okay, so I'm going to go back home. I wonder if I got logged out, or if I still have an internet connection. That's funny.
Slow website here. Slow internet.
Yeah, I think I lost my internet connection. Yeah, we lost our internet connection. So somebody would need to come and set up a ham radio so we can finish this. So what we can do, it's really not a complicated thing too much. The devil really is more in the details of that. When you get to the WebEOC management screen over on the left, there's an area where you can enter the name of the incident and the details. I mentioned earlier about how important the name of the incident is. Generally speaking, I always say to people, you want to put the what and the where. So in the case of the training incident, it's Aries training, and there really wasn't a where in that. But Region K exercise, or Region D severe weather. The system will then append the rest of the information, like the date and that sort of thing, to it automatically, so you don't need to put that stuff in. Once you get through that, there are some areas underneath for you to put in different information, the category of the incident and that sort of thing. And then below that, basically there's a button to start. When you create the incident, it'll show you what the title is going to be, and if you want to change it, you can change it up, but otherwise you would confirm, and then that'll take you right to the page that we started out at earlier. Anyone have any additional questions? Yes?
Can we use this for training? Do we have access to create our incidents?
Absolutely.
We can do a Saturday afternoon practicing that thing, and then you'll see it?
Absolutely, and actually we encourage people to do that. There's no, it's not like we're going to run out of boards or something crazy like that. You can use the system as much or as little as you want to.
No, it was restricted in some way.
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, we actually encourage that. I always tell people the best way to learn any computer system, and GHA911 and WebEOC and all that good stuff are no different, is not to actually watch me do this or watch someone do it, but to get in and just start clicking stuff. A lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to mess anything up or whatever, but really you're not going to break anything or screw up anything. So just go and click and see what happens. And really, I'll be honest with you, I've had some formal computer training. I went to networking school, but by and large, most of the stuff that I know I've taught myself. Just from clicking around and trying stuff, and some reading, which is kind of hard to get people to do nowadays. But that's pretty much it. Anyone have any other questions? Because I guess I'm just about a little short. Anyone? Yes.
One thing to mention is that during our monthly hospital nets,
Mm-hmm.
we will start. This past month, we started using GHA911 for the first time, and we will be using GHA911 every time. Every hospital net, every month, as an additional means of communication. If we have to move to a different HF frequency or whatever, it'll be on WebEOC.
Cool. Thanks. Yes.
I see that you're filming this. How can we do this later?
On the GHA, on the Georgia Aries website.
We'll post it to the Georgia Area's website.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Anyone else? Okay, I guess we'll wrap up and we can figure out what happened to the interwebs. Thank you very much.